Dear listeners, before we get started, drop a quick hi in the comments and let us know where you're tuning in from. Now let's start with the story. I'm Miles. I'm 42 years old, and my job, well, it's the kind where you have to pay close attention to small things. Details matter, which is kind of ironic, given what this story is about. My wife, Leah, is 39. We've been married for 15 years, together for 2 years before that. We don't have any children. That was a mutual decision at first, or at least I thought it was. Our life, or what I thought our life was, seemed steady. We own a nice house, nothing extravagant, but it's ours. We both have pretty good jobs. I believed we had a marriage built on mutual respect, some laughs, a shared rhythm. There are other people in this story, Leah's friends. I always thought they liked to stir things up, spread stories a little too eagerly, but I never said much about it. I figured it wasn't my place, or maybe I didn't want to start something that didn't need starting. Then there's the man she was cheating with. Her affair partner. I just found out who he is. And his wife. She has no idea what's been going on. The problem didn't start with some big, obvious moment. No crashing betrayal, no sudden shift. It was more like a slow leak, something small, maybe even invisible at first, that got worse over time. And I didn't see it for what it was. It started 3 or 4 years ago. Leah began acting different, distant. She told me her job was getting more demanding, that she needed to stay late more often, more weekend meetings. That was her story, anyway. I've got another strategy session Saturday afternoon, she said once, shrugging as she grabbed her bag. It's just that time of year. We're short-staffed again. She said it like it was nothing. Normal. But it started happening more and more often. She also started going out with her friends more. Nights out. Girls' dinners. Birthdays. Catching up. Always a reason. Many times, she'd come home very late. She'd smell like alcohol and perfume I didn't recognize. Rough night. I asked her one time, trying to keep it light. She blinked at me, kicked off her shoes. You know how it is. Jen had too many margaritas. It got loud. I smiled back, but something inside me tightened. We weren't close like we used to be, especially in the bedroom. I chalked it up to stress. Work. Life. That's what happens in long marriages, right? I asked her once if she thought we should talk to someone. A counselor. Maybe just to get back on track. She waved it off. We don't need that, Miles. Seriously, she said. You're just being too sensitive. Everything's fine. Before all of this, our life was ordinary, but it was comfortable. We used to spend our weekends in the garden. Leah had this thing for succulents and herbs. I liked building raised beds. Or we'd take long drives with no destination, just music and roadside coffee. We used to cook dinner together most nights, chopping vegetables side by side, talking about our day. She used to be more affectionate, more present. She had this laugh, quick, warm, and a way of making even boring chores feel like less of a drag. That version of her faded so gradually I didn't notice at first. One day, I just realized. The shared dinners had become rare, replaced by her eating late, after some work thing, or grabbing something with friends. There were so many small signs, like little clues I didn't realize were pointing to something bigger. At the time, I didn't understand them for what they were. Her phone, for example. It used to just lie around on the coffee table, or left charging on the kitchen counter. No big deal. But then, suddenly, it was like it was glued to her hand. She'd keep the screen tilted away from me whenever she was using it. If I walked into a room, she'd quickly flip it face down, like it was automatic. Why are you hiding your screen? I asked her once, trying to keep my voice casual. I'm not hiding anything, she said, not looking up from what she was doing. It's just a habit. But it kept happening. Then she changed the passwords on her phone and her laptop. I only found out when I tried to use her laptop to look up a recipe we'd saved. Hey, what's the new password? I asked. Oh, she said, barely glancing up. They made us change all our passwords at work. Something about improved security protocols. Even your personal devices? Yeah, it's part of a new rule. We're supposed to keep all work info locked down, even if we're using our own stuff. It sounded plausible. Her job can be strict about things like that. But I still didn't know the new passwords. She never offered them, and I didn't push. Maybe I should have. But I didn't want to seem paranoid. We started arguing more around that time. Not big blow-ups, just tension. Constant friction. Usually, it was over little things. She'd snap at me if I loaded the dishwasher wrong, or if I picked a movie she didn't like. Why do you always pick stuff like this? She said once, throwing the remote down. It's like you don't even try to watch what I'd enjoy. It's just a comedy, I said. We used to like this kind of thing. Well, maybe I've grown out of it, she said, arms crossed. Other times, she'd criticize me over what I was wearing. You're not even trying anymore, she muttered one morning, eyeing my jeans and old t-shirt. You used to at least care about how you looked. I tried not to take the bait, but it wore on me. It felt like she was always annoyed, just with me existing. You're not fun anymore, Miles, she told me one night after I asked if we could maybe do something just the two of us. You don't get how much pressure I'm under at work. I do get it, I said, keeping my tone calm. That's why I want us to have a little time away from all that. Just to reconnect. She sighed, long and loud. You always want to talk about feelings. It's exhausting. Weekends, we started doing our own things. She'd say she had plans with her friends. Always vague plans. I was never invited along. It's just girl time, she'd say. You wouldn't have fun. One Saturday, I suggested we go to the local harvest festival. We used to go every year, just the two of us. Walk the stalls, eat too much kettle corn, maybe buy a stupid little pumpkin for the porch. I can't, she said without looking at me. I already made plans with a friend. Oh, I said. Who? Just someone from work, she replied quickly. It's kind of last minute. Okay, well, maybe next weekend? We'll see. But when I asked her about it later, she barely even blinked. So, how was your thing with your friend? I asked casually. Oh, she said, already halfway into the bedroom. It got canceled. There was one weekend that really stands out to me, about a year ago. Leah told me she was going to a work retreat. She even left a printed schedule for it on the fridge. It seemed fine at the time. Her job required these occasional events, and I didn't think much of it. But that evening, something fell off, so I decided to call the hotel that was listed on her schedule. Her phone was switched off, which didn't seem like much at first. Maybe she was in a meeting, or it was late, I told myself. But I just wanted to say goodnight, so I called the hotel instead. The person who answered the phone at the hotel said they had no one registered under her name. They also said there was no company event or retreat happening there that weekend. My stomach dropped. It felt like I'd swallowed a stone. When Leah came home later that night, I tried to keep calm. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but I had to ask. So, how did the retreat go? I asked, keeping my voice steady. She went on, telling me about the guest speakers, the workshops, giving lots of details. It seemed rehearsed. She was trying to sell it, and I could feel something in my gut telling me it wasn't right. After she finished, I very calmly told her that I'd called the hotel just to say hi, and they told me she wasn't there. There was no event happening. The shift in her expression was immediate. She froze, her face hardening, her eyes narrowing. Then, without any warning, she exploded. Are you serious? She yelled. You called them? Why would you do that? Why don't you trust me, Miles? I trust you, I said, trying to keep my tone level. But when your phone is off, and I can't reach you, and then I find out the retreat you said you were at doesn't exist, I need to know what's going on. God, you're trying to control me, aren't you? She shot back, her voice rising. I can't even go away for work without you trying to dig into everything I do. I'm not trying to control you. I'm just asking questions, I said. I don't understand. She scoffed, throwing her hands up in frustration. Well, maybe if you listen to me for once instead of assuming the worst. There was a last-minute change of hotels. The first one had a plumbing issue, and I forgot to tell you because everything was so chaotic. She turned quickly, pulling out her phone. See, look, here's the email confirming the new booking. She showed me the email, and it looked perfect. Too perfect. Like she had it ready, just in case I found out. But I didn't push it. I didn't want to believe she would make up such a big lie. I wanted to trust her, and I was desperate to hold on to that trust. As the months went by, I noticed other things too. Her spending started going up. She bought a lot more new clothes. She went to expensive hair salons, more often than usual. She bought gifts. She said they were for her work clients or for her friends. But our joint bank account showed more and more money being taken out for things we hadn't talked about. It started to feel like there were too many expenses going on that I didn't know about. I tried to talk to her about saving money, about making a budget. She got angry. Miles, you're trying to control me again. She snapped. I earn my own salary, and I can spend it however I want. You're not my boss. That was true. She did earn her own salary. But we'd always talked about big spending together. We'd always made financial decisions together. That moment, the change in her attitude, it stung. It felt like a shift I couldn't ignore. But that wasn't even the moment everything broke. No, the moment my world completely shattered happened about 3 weeks ago. It was a Tuesday evening. Leah was in the study, and I could hear her talking. She was on a video call with her friends. Usually, when she made calls, she used her headphones. But this time, I guess she didn't connect them right. The sound came through the Bluetooth speakers, which were kept in the kitchen. I was in the kitchen, making myself a late sandwich. The study door was cracked open, just a little bit. I didn't mean to listen, but I couldn't help myself. I heard them laughing, very loudly. I thought nothing of it at first. It seemed like just another casual conversation. But then I heard Leah's voice. She was telling a story, and her friends were obviously finding it hilarious. He's just so clueless, Leah said, her voice carrying a strange mix of humor and disgust. 15 years and he hasn't suspected a thing, she continued, laughing as she spoke. Honestly, sometimes I think he's too stupid to notice. I felt like the blood in my body turned to ice. I just stood there, frozen. My hands were still holding the bread for my sandwich, but I couldn't move. I felt like everything around me was crumbling, but I couldn't process what was happening. The laughter from her friends grew louder, and then Leah kept going. Troy is amazing, you know? So attentive. It's like night and day compared to Miles. Miles just plods along, happy in his little oblivious world. It hit me like a punch to the gut. The world around me seemed to stop, and I could feel the room closing in on me. One of her friends asked her, "How long has this been going on with Troy?" Leah responded casually, as if she were talking about something as innocent as the weather. "Oh, with Troy, it's been about 4 years, pretty consistently. There were a couple of others before him. You know, shorter things, but Troy is different." The words kept cutting deeper. I was rooted to the spot, unable to move. She was describing something I couldn't even fathom. She kept going, detailing something sexual she had recently done with Troy. Her friends were giggling and pressing her for more, clearly enjoying the gossip. At one point, she even joked about how she had almost been caught a few times, but then added, "My so-called lack of awareness made it easy for me to get away with it." That was when she casually mentioned something that shattered what little was left of my world. "Troy's married too," she said. "I guess that makes it safer, in a way. He's less likely to get too serious or want too much from me." That was it. I couldn't listen to any more. I shut the speakers off, and I backed away from the kitchen area as quietly as I could. My mind was spinning. For years, I had trusted her, believed in the life we built together. But in that moment, everything I thought I knew about my marriage, about Leah, collapsed. It wasn't just one affair. There had been others. The woman I had spent almost 2 decades with, the woman I thought I knew and loved, was a total stranger. It hit me like a wave of cold water, and the realization stung deeper than I could have ever imagined. She clearly thought I was a fool, the way she said it all so casually, so cruelly. The sound of her laughter, the boldness of it, everything about it just shattered something deep inside me. It wasn't sadness I felt right away. It wasn't even anger. It was a numbness, like I was frozen in place, unable to react to the enormity of what had just been exposed. I didn't say anything to her that night. I couldn't. It would have been too much to confront her then. So I just went to our bedroom, got into bed, and pretended like I hadn't heard a thing. It was incredibly hard to keep my face neutral, but somehow I managed. She came to bed much later, humming some little tune, like everything was normal. She asked me if I was okay because I was being so quiet. My heart was still racing, but I just said I was tired from work. It wasn't even a lie, I was tired. But more than that, I needed to process everything that had just unfolded. The next morning, I got up, got ready, and went to my office like any other day. But my mind wasn't on work at all. The words "too stupid to notice" kept playing over and over in my head, a constant refrain that gnawed at me. My brain, which usually focused on solving logical problems, was now consumed by only one thing. She thinks I'm stupid. I had to prove her wrong. I had to show her just how much I could notice, just how carefully I could plan. My first thought was that I needed proof. Real, solid proof, not just for my own peace of mind, but for the divorce that I knew was inevitable. And I figured it might be useful for other reasons, too. I started by looking at our money. I could access all of our joint bank accounts online, and I also received copies of her credit card statements because we had signed up for electronic statements that went to a shared email address. I had set that system up years ago to keep records, and she never bothered to change it or check it. So, I began to comb through the bank statements and credit card bills, looking for anything that didn't make sense. I found plenty. Expensive spa weekends, she said, were for de-stressing alone. Fancy dinners at restaurants I'd never been to. Hotel bookings in cities where she had no work events planned. Expensive gifts she'd bought, which she claimed were for her work clients or for friends. The more I looked, the more patterns began to emerge. The dates of her work trips often matched up with large payments to small, fancy hotels. It was all lining up. That's when I remembered something. A voice-activated recorder I had bought when I was in college to record lectures. I hadn't used it in years, but I thought it might come in handy now. I searched through some old boxes in the closet and found it. I bought new batteries for the recorder, then very carefully hid it under the passenger seat in her car. I knew that recording someone without their knowledge might be a legal problem, but at that point, I was past caring about playing by the rules. I needed proof, and I was willing to do whatever it took to get it. I also installed some special software on her home computer, the one she sometimes used. This software is designed to recover deleted files. I was searching for anything I could find, deleted emails, chat messages, pictures, anything at all. It was like I had become a detective in my own life. I spent hours each night after she was asleep, or early in the morning before she woke up, piecing things together. The calmness I felt during this process was strange. It was as if my emotions had completely shut down, and my brain was working like a machine, focused only on one thing: uncovering the truth. The first bits of evidence came in quickly. The voice recorder in her car picked up phone calls she made when she was driving. There were calls with Troy, where they talked about when and where they would meet. They also talked about things they had done, and the tone of their conversations made my stomach twist. But there were also calls with her friends, and in those calls, she continued to make fun of me. She would brag to them about how she was managing her double life, how easy it was to fool me. The thing that hurt the most was hearing how casually she spoke about me, as if I was just some insignificant fool she had to deal with. It was clear that she didn't even respect me enough to hide her laughter when talking about me behind my back. Recovering deleted files from the computer also gave me a lot. I found deleted emails between her and Troy, and I found photos of her and Troy together. Some were just them smiling, like they were just a couple having fun. But others, they were more intimate. There were also pictures from holidays she had taken, holidays that she had told me were solo trips she needed to find herself, or important business trips. It was all a lie. She had a whole secret life, and it was all laid out in front of me in digital files and recordings. It's been 3 weeks since that awful Tuesday night. 3 weeks of living a lie. I've been polite to Leah, making small talk with her, pretending everything is fine. All the while, inside, I've been feeling this cold, controlled anger. For 3 weeks, I've been carefully and quietly building my case against her. I spent many late nights going over every piece of information, making copies, organizing everything. I even found out who Troy is. I know his full name, where he lives, where he works, and most importantly, I confirmed that he is married. Leah was surprisingly careless with her secret digital life. Once I actually started looking, I noticed something strange. She had his phone number saved in her phone under a woman's name. But when I checked the pattern of calls and texts to that number, it just didn't add up. I cross-referenced times and dates with things she had said in the recorded conversations, and I did some searching on social media using small details she had let slip. It all led me straight to him. His wife's social media page was full of pictures of their family, smiling and looking happy. But I knew that happiness was about to be disturbed. My plan to deal with this wasn't simple. It had several parts, all designed to have the biggest possible impact on Leah. Her birthday is in 10 days, and I plan to make it a birthday she will never, ever forget. I had already talked to a lawyer, someone who was known for being very good and very tough in divorce cases. We had prepared everything that was needed. All the evidence I had collected was neatly compiled in a binder, ready to be used. My lawyer was impressed with how thorough I was. He said it made our case very strong. Here's the plan, step by step, that I've decided on. 1. 2 days before her birthday, I'll go to all our banks and financial institutions. I'll freeze all the bank accounts that we share. I'll also cut off her ability to use any credit cards that are connected to my name or my credit. Our house is mainly in my name. It was left to me by my parents. Her name was added to the ownership papers after we got married, but my lawyer feels confident about protecting this asset for me. I will take all the necessary legal steps to make sure the house is secure. 2. The day before her birthday, I'll send a package to Troy's wife. I'll send it anonymously so she won't know it's from me. This package will contain clear, undeniable proof that her husband, Troy, has been having an affair with Leah for years. It will include copies of photos, copies of hotel bills with both their names on them, and transcripts of some of their conversations where they openly talked about their affair. It will have everything his wife needs to know the truth. 3. On her birthday, Leah will wake up and find that her money situation is in complete chaos. She won't be able to access any of our shared money. Later that same day, she will be officially given the divorce papers. The reason for divorce will be her adultery, and it will be supported by the large amount of evidence I have collected. I'll make sure the papers are delivered to her during any birthday party or celebration she might have planned with her friends. She built her entire secret life on the idea that I was too stupid to see what she was doing. I'm going to take a grim sort of pleasure in showing her just how wrong she was about that. Some people might read this and think my plan is cruel or that I'm going too far. I think it's a fair and fitting response to what she did. She is about to find out that when you do certain things, there are very serious, very painful results. I want her to lose everything, just like I feel I've lost the happy life I thought I had with her. The voice recorder I put in her car, it was legal. My lawyer told me that in our state, you usually need both people to agree to be recorded, so the recordings themselves might not be allowed as direct evidence in court. However, the information I got from listening to those recordings was extremely useful. It helped me know where to look for other evidence that is allowed in court. For instance, if I heard her mention a specific hotel name or a date on a recording, I could then legally ask for official records from that hotel or find digital receipts for that date, and those things can be used in court. The recordings also helped me understand just how deep her lies went. It prepared me for what I was dealing with. Leah wasn't as careful as she thought. In one of the calls I recorded her making to a friend, she mentioned Troy's last name and said he was a dentist. It wasn't hard to do an online search for dentists in our city with that last name and first name. I found his professional work profile, which had his photo. The photo matched the man in the pictures I had recovered from her deleted files on the computer. That confirmed it was him. His wife was mentioned and tagged in some of his social media posts, and her profile was mostly public. It really didn't take long to find her once I was looking for her and was motivated. Let's talk about the money. Our main checking account, our savings account, and one main credit card were all joint, meaning both our names were on them. I also had a good amount of money that I inherited from my parents. That inheritance was kept in bank accounts that were just in my name, but over the years, she had been given some access to use parts of it for big household things we had both agreed on, like renovations. The house we live in was originally mine. My parents left it to me. Her name was added to the official ownership papers, the title, a few years after we got married. My lawyer has been very clear with me about how to handle all of this. Freezing the accounts right now is mainly to stop her from taking out all the money or hiding it before the divorce is settled. How everything gets divided in the long run will be decided during the divorce process. But my lawyer says her position will be very weak because of her cheating and because I have proof she spent marital money on her affairs. Her actions were not a one-time mistake. It was a long-term one, so my response is also carefully planned. I don't have any feelings of love left for her. All I feel now is a need to carry out my plan to the end. Phase 1, financial lockdown. This was done 2 days ago, on Monday morning, just as I had planned. I went to the bank. I had already talked to a senior manager there a couple of times before, and my lawyer was with me for one of those meetings, so the bank knew it was serious. I went through all the steps very carefully. First, I took out exactly 50% of all the money from our joint checking and savings accounts. I put this money into new accounts that are only in my name. Then, I told the bank to freeze all the joint accounts so no more money could be taken out or put in unless a lawyer said so. My lawyer had prepared a formal letter for the bank. The letter explained why we were doing this. It mentioned the breakdown of our marriage and my concern that she might try to waste or hide our shared money. After the bank, I called the credit card companies. All the credit cards that were in both our names were frozen. The extra card she had on my main credit card account was canceled immediately. This means that any automatic payments that used to come out of those accounts for her personal bills, like her car payment, her personal cell phone bill, or all those monthly subscription boxes she ordered, will now be declined. I made sure that all our important household bills, like the mortgage on the house, which I will now be paying by myself, and the utility bills, electricity, water, gas, were changed to be paid for by my new bank accounts, the ones only in my name. This whole process took several hours. Phase 2, informing the other injured party. This was done yesterday. Yesterday morning, I sent the package to Troy's wife, Adeline. I put together a small, very neat binder of information for her. Inside the binder, I put about 20 clear photographs of Leah and Troy together. Some of these photos were from trips they took together. You could clearly see the locations and dates on some of them. Some of the other photos were more personal, showing them being affectionate. But I didn't include anything too graphic, just enough to make it absolutely clear they were having an affair. The binder also contained copies of hotel bills that had both their names on them and a few short, typed-out parts of conversations between Leah and Troy. These were taken from the recordings, and in them, they talked about their feelings for each other, their sexual meetings, and how they managed to trick their spouses. I also put in a very short typed note that was not signed. The note said, "Adeline, you deserve to know the truth about your husband, Troy, and his long-term affair with Leah." I use Leah's full name. The information enclosed is for you to see. What you decide to do with this information is your own choice. I sent the package using a courier service that required someone to sign for it when it was delivered. I addressed it specifically to Adeline at her home address. I got a notification from the courier late yesterday afternoon confirming that the package had been delivered and signed for. As I dropped that package off, I felt like I was starting a fire, but one that needed to burn. Phase 3, divorce papers. These are all prepared, and they will be delivered tomorrow on her birthday. The divorce papers are all signed and ready. They are with a professional process server. This is a person whose job it is to officially deliver legal documents. My lawyer has been extremely careful and detailed with these papers. The papers state very clearly that I am divorcing her because of adultery. They also include a summary of all the evidence I have collected, and they explain what I am asking for in terms of dividing our property and assets. The process server has been given instructions to deliver these papers to Leah tomorrow in the late afternoon. I know that Leah usually likes to have a small birthday dinner with her group of friends. I even found out which restaurant she booked for it this year. I saw the reservation confirmation in her email, which she often left open on the home computer. I have given the server the address of that restaurant. If she changes her plans and is not at the restaurant, the server will deliver the papers to her at our home. The first results of freezing the bank accounts started to show up quickly. Leah called me on Monday afternoon. Her voice sounded tight and worried at first, and then it quickly became panicked. She said that her credit card had been declined when she tried to buy something at a store. Then she said she couldn't get into our joint bank account online. I kept my answers to her very short and calm. I told her that I had found out about some very serious problems in our marriage. I said that based on legal advice, I had taken steps to protect our financial assets. I told her she would understand everything very soon. She started demanding that I tell her more, and her voice got louder and angrier. What have you done? Are you trying to ruin me? This is insane, she shouted. I just repeated that she would have all the information shortly, and then ended the call. She called me back many times after that. I didn't answer any of her calls. Then she started sending a flood of text messages. The messages changed in tone. Some were confused. What is going on? Some were angry and accusing. What have you done? Are you trying to ruin me? This is insane. Others were pleading. Please, just call me. Let's talk. I have not replied to any of her calls or texts. Her access to the money she used to control is now completely cut off. Unless she has some secret bank accounts of her own that I don't know about. It's possible she does, but the main source of her spending money has now dried up. I haven't heard anything directly from Troy's wife, Adeline. I didn't really expect to hear from her. The package of information was for her to see and use as she wishes. Her issues are with Troy, not me. My main focus is on dealing with Leah. The house has been very quiet. She was out very late last night. I guess she was trying to figure out what was happening with the money, or maybe she was talking to her friends about it. I've changed the locks on my study door. That's where I'm keeping all my documents, my computer with all the evidence, and my personal things. Tomorrow is the day for the final step in this first part of my plan. I feel a dark kind of satisfaction, a sense of grim purpose. The woman who laughed with her friends about my supposed stupidity is about to get a very harsh wake-up call on her birthday. It's been just over 5 weeks since what I now call D-Day, Leah's birthday, the day she was served the divorce papers. The big explosions from that day have mostly stopped, but what's left is a messy and ongoing process of taking everything apart. From what I've heard, Leah's birthday turned into a complete disaster scene. The process server did his job and successfully delivered the divorce papers to her at the restaurant she had booked for her birthday dinner with her friends. I heard that she had just sat down at the table. She was probably still upset and confused about the money situation from the days before, but trying to act like everything was okay for her friends. That's when a man came up to her table, asked if she was Leah, and then handed her the large legal envelope. Her friends later told some mutual acquaintances, who, of course, couldn't wait to pass on all the dramatic details to others. What happened next, they said, was that Leah opened the envelope, read a few lines, and her face turned completely white. Then she apparently started to scream, not just crying, but actual screaming. She threw the papers down on the floor, started yelling at the process server, accusing him of ruining her life. Then she became totally hysterical, crying and shouting uncontrollably. The manager of the restaurant had to ask her and her friends to pay and leave. Her friends tried to calm her down, but they said she was beyond listening to anyone. One of her friends even called me and left a long, angry voicemail. In the message, the friend yelled at me for being cruel and heartless. She went on to describe in detail how Leah had completely broken down. The days that followed her birthday were filled with Leah making more and more desperate attempts to contact me. She must have called me dozens of times every day, from her own phone number, then from blocked or unknown numbers, and even from her friends' phones. I also received countless emails, text messages, and voicemails from her. The tone of these messages changed constantly. Sometimes she was furious, making threats about how she would make me pay for this. Other times she was crying and apologizing, begging for us to just talk. She kept saying she had made a terrible mistake, that she really loved me, that Troy meant nothing to her, and that her friends had misunderstood what she said on that phone call I overheard. They sounded like the typical excuses people make when they get caught. I did not respond to any of her messages directly. I told my lawyer that all communication with her must go through him. Her money situation apparently got very bad very quickly. It turns out she had very little personal savings of her own. She had been spending money from our joint account so freely for so many years, buying whatever she wanted. Her friends, the ones who always seemed to encourage her expensive lifestyle and her nights out, now seemed to offer her very little real help. They gave her sympathy, I'm sure, but not much practical support. Once they realized her access to money was gone, she couldn't make her car lease payment. The car, a fairly new model she was very proud of, was repossessed by the lease company a few days ago. She also had to move out of our house about 2 weeks ago. My lawyer pushed through an initial legal agreement that said she had to leave, especially given her behavior and her lack of any money to fight it right away. The house is now my sole responsibility, and I fully intend to keep it. I heard from a mutual acquaintance that she is currently staying with one of her friends, but it's a temporary situation, and the friend is already getting tired of having her there. After about a week of me completely ignoring all her calls and messages, and after she started to realize just how serious the situation was getting, official letters from my lawyer, having no money and no access to the house, she did something quite extreme. She actually showed up at my office building. She went into the main lobby and started causing a loud scene. She was screaming my name, demanding to see me. She was shouting that I had stolen her life and ruined her. Security guards had to come and escort her out of the building. My colleagues who saw it were quite shocked. Then, about 2 weeks ago, something even more serious happened. One of her closer friends called me. She sounded very panicked and told me that Leah had been drinking heavily for days. During a very emotional and distraught phone call to this friend, Leah had apparently said things about wanting to end her own life. Then, she had cut her wrist superficially. The friend immediately called for emergency medical help. Leah was taken to the hospital, and they treated her small injury and put her under psychiatric observation. The doctors determined it wasn't a life-threatening injury, but it was a clear sign that she was completely falling apart and not coping at all. I made sure my lawyer was informed about this incident right away. I felt no emotional response to this news about Leah. My only action was to tell my lawyer to get all the official reports and document this incident as part of our ongoing divorce case. It clearly showed her current state of instability. She was released from the hospital after being held for 72 hours. Her friends were apparently told they needed to keep an eye on her and remove anything she could use to harm herself, which I'm sure put even more stress on them. Troy's life, her affair partner's life, has also completely fallen apart. His wife, Adeline, did not stay quiet after she received that package of evidence. I heard through the general town gossip. It's a relatively small city, and dentists, like many professionals, seem to have a very active rumor mill, that Adeline confronted Troy the same day she got the package. Faced with the undeniable proof in the binder, he apparently confessed to everything. She kicked him out of their family home immediately and has already filed for divorce from him. From what I hear, he is completely devastated, not because he lost Leah, but because he has lost his comfortable family life, his home, and his reputation is likely suffering. Leah has apparently tried to contact him, looking for support or maybe to team up, but Troy is reportedly blaming her for the whole mess. He's been saying she was the one who was careless and got them both caught. So much for the special connection and love she thought they shared. Their affair is now common knowledge in their social circles, and neither of them is being viewed very positively. The legal battle of the divorce is really just getting started, but my lawyer remains very confident about our position. The evidence of her adultery is overwhelming and cannot be denied. Also, her spending of marital money on her affairs over several years is very well documented in the financial records I gathered. Her lawyer is trying to argue for her to get significant alimony, spousal support payments, and a large share of the value of the house. However, my lawyer is aggressively fighting against these claims. Leah's recent psychiatric incident and her public outbursts, like the one at my office, are not helping her lawyer's attempts to portray her as a stable or wronged victim. Leah looks awful. I actually saw her by pure chance last week. I was at the local supermarket, and as I was walking to my car in the parking lot, I saw her standing near another car, having a very loud and angry argument with one of her friends. She didn't see me, and I just got in my car and drove away. The difference between the woman I saw in the parking lot and the polished, confident, arrogant woman who had laughed about my intelligence with her friends on that video call was shocking. She is now living the direct results of her choices and her actions. She has lost her husband, her comfortable home, her financial security, her public reputation, and her affair partner has abandoned her. My own life has become a series of meetings with lawyers and dealing with piles of paperwork, but underneath all that stress, there is a quiet, cold satisfaction. It's the satisfaction of knowing that I didn't just roll over and accept her betrayal and her contempt. I am moving forward with the divorce with a very clear head. My main goal in all of this was to make sure she understood, without a shadow of a doubt, that her actions had serious consequences. I wanted her to know that she could not treat another human being with such deep disrespect and cruelty and just expect to walk away without any problems. I truly believe that message has now been delivered loud and clear. The person she so arrogantly called too stupid to notice has made sure that she will remember his capacity for careful, methodical action for a very, very long time. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.